we went to the moon, it's how we got there, that's a conspiracy. Any evidence? All the evidence says that we faked the moon landing. There's no evidence that we went to the moon. We may have gone to the moon. People don't understand how logic works. I cannot prove that we never went to the moon. I can, however, prove that what we were told by NASA is, by the way, guys, it's really hard to prove a negative. Like when Kavanaugh had to prove that he didn't rape someone without knowing when, where, or who, or even the month it happened, and still almost did it with his journals and all his shit. It's almost impossible to prove a negative. It's easy to prove we never went to the moon. There's no technological capability. Even just the live feed from the moon, the fact that NASA claims we no longer have the technology because we destroyed it and it's too painful to bring it back. The fact they destroyed all the telemetry data for no reason and then lied about it. The fact all the moon rocks came from Earth, provably, that these idiots gave to other countries. One was petrified wood, and they all contain traces of brass, which is a man-made metal. There, you can watch the astronauts unable to even come up with the same story of whether or not they could see the stars. Might want to get your story down first, guys. The frigid temperatures and the blazing heat of space would not be like when Apollo whatever lost its environmental controls, and it was just this paper thin piece of whatever between them and in a vacuum of infinite coldness or heat. They'd all be dead immediately. And also space junk, one screw going 20,000 miles an hour would go right through it, and it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. I don't even have to talk about, and right now we couldn't do a live broadcast from the moon. It's not possible. The film wouldn't survive the Van Allen belt. They're on tape doctoring a video. Neil Armstrong was not allowed to give an interview for 40 years after he blatantly looked like he was lying. Buzz Aldrin admitted to a little girl we never went to the moon and then kind of took it back 10 minutes later. A lot of murders, too. A lot of suicides. Buzz Aldrin's mother's maiden name was Moon, and she committed suicide right before Buzz went to the moon. Agree to disagree. We went to the moon many times. You can't just say agree to disagree. NASA, which gets $58 million a day. And by the way, when people say, why would we even go back to the moon? There's nothing there. You have scientists from the 60s saying it would be the greatest place to have a scientific station imaginable. No atmosphere. You can do tests. You can see things that you would never see. You would have golf tournaments, blah, 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 blah. Okay, 1/6 the gravity. They did not act 1/6 the gravity one bit. The rovers would not have driven that way. Each rover cost the taxpayers $60 million in 1970s money. It's just nonsense. Every president has said that we would go back and then failed. Even our private sector has failed. No other country has ever went back to the moon. And the number one argument that people have that we went to the moon is there are reflectors on the moon. Look, I can prove it. There's a reflector on the moon. Makes no sense. So no technology, no other country followed in our footsteps. We deleted all the evidence. We were absolutely incapable of live broadcasting with that amount of energy or technology from the moon then or now. The moon rocks all had elements of earth in it, or they were petrified wood. And then all people say then is secret space program. Okay, let's fill me in on the secret. Hang on, someone said he has a 147 IQ, guys. Don't question his logic. Now you're banned. No, why don't you question my logic? How about this? Ready? Name one other time in history that technology has went in reverse. Since 1900, until now. Name one other time in history where you had technology in 1969 that you no longer have now. I mean, I'm not even specifying that it has to do with aeronautics or, guidance systems, rocket systems. Guys, look at a cruise missile and then compare it with the Saturn V rocket. Okay? Technology is advanced to a degree that you can't imagine. And yet they're saying that we can't go back because we no longer have the technology. What about the calculations? Apparently it was one black woman that did it by hand. This is from NASA. It was one black woman. They did a movie about her. Did it by hand. And now they can't find it. Okay, what about the telemetry data? 1 ton of data was reused. So when people say, oh, the tape, it didn't have any value, the technology advanced. A, that's ironic to say that technology advanced when their main argument is that we no longer have the technology. B, they reused it because they said they had budgetary problems in the 70s. Even though they got, 20 border security walls a year with no more space programs. Hang on, someone said, oh, and I'm an engineer, hang on. Oh, and I'm an engineer. Space is not cold. Temperature means nothing to astronauts. It's all about heat transfer. Do you understand that? Yes, there's a difference between heat and temperature. Of course I understand that. The amount of molecules in a space with the vibration is temperature. Heat is energy transfer. That's why the melting point of aluminum and stuff like that is different with less dense air around it. Of course I understand all that. Nothing I said has anything to do with that. They do claim that it's frigid and you would die in space. They claim that, right? Because there's either no heat or tons of radiation. You know that they say the ionosphere and the ozone layer and all this stuff blocks harmful radiation from here, right? Okay, so without those protections, what happens in space, retard? So without the ionosphere, without the ozone layer, without the protection, without our magnetic poles, you would get all the radiation. So then what happens? That's why you need 5 feet of lead. I know you said you're an engineer. That doesn't mean anything if you can't think. When has technology went in reverse? What other time in history has an explorer went someplace, planted a flag from a nation, and no other nation followed suit? None. Russia, China, Israel, none of them ever went again. Name one other time. Never once. Oh, and your moon rocks shouldn't be petrified wood. Bill Nye is an engineer. My wife, a stay-at-home mother, is also an engineer. She, I guarantee, has a better degree than you do, smart boy. She has a structural engineering degree from USC, and she graduated in the top quarter of her class, and that's including Asians. So my wife, who focuses mostly on tit feeding and, doing mom stuff, is more of a fucking engineer than the guy that's like, hey, man, listen, I'm an engineer. I'm just going to have to poke right in here and say, Big Bear, you don't understand the difference between heat and temperature. It's about, density of molecules and how fast. Such a fag. You know you're a fag. You don't think I understand the difference between going in a 190-degree sauna and 190-degree water? Do you think I don't understand the difference of that? That's why that wasn't an argument I was making. We never went to the moon. Never, ever once. And you can say agree to disagree, but that doesn't mean anything. What I said means something. So when you look at a plane from the 1950s, when you look at rocket technology from the early 60s, when you look at radios, cell phones, cell phones didn't exist, computers didn't exist. We have NASA astronauts bragging that they had less technology than an iPhone and it got them to the moon and back. And then in the same breath, they say, we no longer have the technology to go to the moon because we destroyed it and it's too painful to bring it back. Well, where's the proof you went? We destroyed it. Well, what about those moon rocks? Petrified wood. Well, what about those videos where you guys were jumping like 8 feet in the air? 18 inches max, which makes no sense given a 90-pound pack, a 170-pound man, and 1/6 gravity. That makes no sense at all. Well, what about all the space junk and the Van Allen belt? And none of it. None of it. It's so... And by the way, this is a week when you should understand lies. Russia collusion, lie. All of it a lie. So that's with the internet after 2 fucking years. Imagine the lie of NASA. That's in the 60s and 70s when there was no internet and we were still a high trust society. Do you now think that maybe there was a chance that there were motivations for people to lie about the space race? Yes. I don't think that AIDS is real either, but that's another story.